get started. I'm going to introduce Nick. He's going to come up here and get started. I'm just meeting Nick actually for the first time. He's a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. We kind of are meeting Nick because he's in a BNI group that my son Chase is part of, with, you guys know, Ashley Shipley, Mindy, Blackburn. They're part of this BNI group too. So Chase is just new in there. And part of what they do is they share each other's resources. And obviously we do trainings every single week. And we're always looking for good content and good speakers. So Nick is going to come up here. I'm going to share a screen. So Nick, I don't have much more of an introduction than that. Sorry. I'll give it a come up, introduce yourself while I share your screen, and then you can take over the clicker.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
I'm Nick. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I work at Morgan Stanley. I'm a financial advisor. I started at Merrill Lynch back in 2014 and was recruited onto a team, the Miklos group. Steph Miklos is the guy in the middle. And we moved over from Merrill Lynch to Morgan Stanley December 2019, right before COVID hit. It's pretty fun. Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of background. So I'm from Northern California. I'm from a little town called Petaluma. If anybody drinks beer, the only thing famous from my town is a company called Liquidity. That's where it started. If anybody does drink beer, that's the only thing you know from it. But I came here, I was a kicker at the University of Utah. So I kicked from 2009 to 2012. And then I also kicked a year at Rutgers in New Jersey and started my master's there. But how did I get into the business? Why do I do what I do? So obviously I played sports. I had an interest in sports. Thought I was going to be pro. That never happened. But my dad's dad died when he was 18, and my grandma inherited $10,000. Right, so she was they met in World War II. She was from France. She never worked a day in her life. My dad's dad was an artist, so they didn't have any money. So she got $10,000, right? She took $2,500, bought a car. $7,500 she invested. The day she died with a $2.5 million stock portfolio and $1.5 million house in Santa Cruz, California. So from that $7,500, right? So she loved it. She was very into it. She was very good at it. When I was born, my grandma bought me 100 shares of McDonald's, and that was the first stock I ever owned. So I had this interest in stocks and investing, and then I had an interest in sports, which I had a network with. I think the stat is like 80% of athletes are bankrupt after 4 years of leaving the pros, right? So I had
That was 2.
Right, depends on their habits.
Yeah. So I had this interest, and I had this network, and I thought I could help, right? I live in Holiday, Utah now, with my wife, who's also a realtor. And I have 2 wonderful children, a boy and a girl, who are 3.5 and 10 months. So there you go. I've been in the business for 7.5 years, and kind of what I wanted to talk about today is Chase had asked me to talk about kind of retirement options for realtors. So I'm going to tell you why you should do it, and then how you can do it, right? And then there's some other kind of things that my firm Morgan Stanley can do to kind of add another bullet, I guess, to your guys's capabilities.
Wait, to preface this though, he sent me over like 6 attachments of files, PDF slides, like each had like 40 slides in them. I'm like, does this dude know he only has an hour? I had a line of attachments on my email. I'm going, oh my God. So I'm just thanking him for condensing all of that down into this brand new, beautiful PowerPoint that we're about to see.
And it's not sexy. It's all black, but I think you'll get the picture.
Black sexy.
Okay, so my favorite thing in the world, I guess starting place is it's kind of the penny doubled routine, right? So what would you rather have? $1 million today or a penny double every day for a month?
Either, did you say?
Penny double every month.
Either.
Yeah, if I'm second in line, I'll take the
That's an
penny.
hour, I guess, you know?
So we're doing it for this specific thing. It's
Okay.
for a month, so 30 days.
Just a
30
month.
days,
So
double every
1
day.
penny is what you start with. Second day, 2 pennies. Third day is 4 pennies. What am I on? Fourth day is 8 pennies, and so on and so forth. 30 days, right? Does anyone have an idea of what they think?
She's.
I used to know, I've heard it.
If you keep it, it'll take a long time to
I
actually
can't
do it.
remember.
But you do that every 30 days?
Every day for 30 days.
Okay.
I'll do the penny doubling.
Penny doubling.
I think I
It's
would.
it's a trick
know it's a
question.
trick
I'm gonna
question.
go with that.
That's
Um,
probably what's about it.
So here's the math, right? This is it right here. Sorry if this isn't big enough. But 30 days, it's 5,368,000. If you were to do a 31-day month, it is 10 million, almost $11 million, right? So I think it was Albert Einstein who said compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world, right? So this is kind of just why you invest and why you start and why it takes time, right? The main thing and like why I wanted to talk about retirement accounts as a good way to invest is this third one over here, right? So basically what this is showing is every earning you're gonna getting taxed at a 30% level, right? So if you take you start with 1 penny and then you're supposed to get another penny, right? But that's then taxed at 30%. So you get 0.017 added onto that, right? So then you take that number and you double it, times it by 0.3 or 0.7, gets you the amount of taxes that you're gonna be paying on, right? And you'll see if at every time that place is taxed at a 30% level, which is a pretty general tax rate, right? The difference between what you could have had without taxes, which is almost 11 million, and what you will have after 31 days is 82,000. It's a big difference, right? And the middle one is kind of what a retirement account shows, right? So tax at a distribution, if anybody has heard of an individual retirement account, 401k, a SEP, a simple, any of those names, those are basically government incentivized retirement accounts, right? So for tax debt distribution, that is referring to a individual retirement account. So not taxed, not taxed, not taxed, until you pull it out, they're taxing at a 50% tax rate because on IRA, you're taxed at your ordinary income levels. If you make 11 million in 1 year, you're gonna pay a 50% tax rate. That's pretty see, right? But you can still see that tax at the end if you defer all of your growth. The how much you will have at the end is going to be sizably more than if you would have paid taxes every single time along the way, right? So I hope that sets the stage for diving into this, and I can talk about this other one. This basically just describes.
Nobody wants that one.
That is starting now versus waiting, right? That's all it really is. This is showing Bob is 21 and Bob invested $1,200. I think they can see this.
Yeah, I shared the screen.
So Kim says she can't see it.
You can try
Oh, you can't see it because it's too small, or you?
Control plus to make it bigger.
Nice.
Well, I'm on
Still-
presentation
it
mode.
actually still
All I
shows.
see is the first slide of his presentation. So whatever he's pointing to over on the side, I don't think it's changed.
Oh, it didn't advance for you guys.
Oh, that's why.
Well, that's kind of. Is it moving now?
No,
Still on the first slide.
yeah,
Well, I'll just take it off presentation. That'd be good.
Yeah, they don't have to stare at me. They can show you.
Well, I mean, I could, if I just. Can you see this mode?
I see your mouse moving around.
Nothing's changed for you.
No, it's still the first slide.
Oh, sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I'll see if I can figure this out.
Maybe stop share.
Anybody else want anything, water, anything?
Scotch.
Gosh.
That was good.
11:13.
Even with the
Five
accent.
o'clock
Where?
I think you can, even in the mode, you can
I know I can zoom in on it, but
control plus, I'm gonna make it.
I
I wonder if
do
someone just said
screen-
something in the chat.
Do the screen, not
Sure,
the,
yeah,
because you did the
screen share.
PowerPoint, do the screen, so do that one.
okay. Hold on, I think. Oh, that was Jay's. Well, first, let me stop this here. What are you saying?
Oh, because you had, yeah, do this, just do the screen, not the presentation. Because then whatever your screen's showing, it'll, so if you have full screen on the presentation, it'll,
You'd think I'd never done this before.
so yeah, just click share,
The screen?
yeah. And then now go into presentation mode.
Well, but I'm sharing this screen and it'll share.
Yeah, it should share. Yeah, so now it should still be,
What do you see, Kim?
Now it looks like it's in presentation mode.
So
Slide,
I'm sharing this
slide
screen.
two.
so just go.
Screen 2. How about now?
Yeah, slide 2.
You're seeing slide 2? So yeah. Do you see it in advance?
Yep.
Nice.
Okay, start over.
Start over.
Thank you.
Just kidding.
My name's Nick and I like sports.
Kicker.
Here's called Hockey News. Yeah, so I hope everyone online can now see this. And you're just completely dumbfounded
Now
by
it all
how
makes
amazing that is. Yeah, so I was just going over quickly the one on the right, why you start now versus waiting. Bob took invested $12,000 over 10 years and then stopped from the age of 21 till 30 at a 10% earning every single year. He stopped at the age of 31, still with that $12,000 investment. When he's 65, that's $537,000, right? Joe, on the other hand, didn't start until he was 31 and invested for the rest of his life, right? So he invested 3.5 times the amount that Bob did, but has 210,000 less than him just by not starting earlier, right? So it doesn't necessarily fit in what I'm talking about today, but it's still a cool idea to know why you should start now versus why not to
And
wait.
we're only gonna live till we're 65.
Well, typically,
So that's when you want to start spending.
typically when you start spending.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Or earlier.
Or further.
Or just let it go.
I mean, that would be the goal. So paradigm has shifted, right? You guys are a little different. I'm assuming all of you are 1099 employees, right? And so you guys probably wouldn't have assumed that there would be retirement benefits for you, because that's kind of what you get as a 1099 employee. But traditionally, back in the day, your employer would pay into a pension plan for you, and so you will have income on the day you retire. Now, the government has set it in place where you actually fund it yourself, fund your own pension plan into certain things called a 401k and or other defined contribution plans. And so those defined contribution plans are your IRAs and your small business IRAs. So IRAs stand for individual retirement accounts. And I'll kind of jump into what they do. So an individual retirement account has a max that you can put into it of $6,000 a year. If you're over the age of 50, you get what's called a catch-up, and you can put another $1,000 into it for a total of $7,000 into an IRA, right? In a individual retirement account, these are deductible, right? So every dollar you put in gets taken off of your earned income, right? So you don't have to pay taxes on that money, which is nice. The other piece of it is the tax deferred growth. As I showed in my chart before, tax deferred growth is wonderful. You end up with a lot more money, right? If you're not paying every time you trade something. It's the same thing with real estate, right? You sell property, you have to pay taxes on the capital gains unless it's your primary residence, but on investment properties, right? In these in an individual retirement account, you get the tax deferred growth and you get the deduction, which is great for taxes, right? Non-deductible contributions. If you make too much money, the contributions you put in will not get a deduction, will be not taken off of your income, but will still grow tax deferred, which is still a benefit to you, right? And the fourth piece is penalty tax-free distribution. So the government allows you not to pay taxes on this money because they want you to use it for when you're older and when you're going to retire, right? So they have a rule in there that you can't pull the money before you're 59 and a half. If you do, you pay a 10% tax penalty. So pretty powerful, as I showed in that first graph. Other pieces I guess I'd want to add into there is when you're 70 and a half, you have to take what's called required minimum distributions. The government wants you to pay taxes eventually. So, you know, you said never use it. They're going to force you to use the money so that you have to pay taxes on it at some point, right? The next version of the individual retirement account is a Roth account. So they're the same. So when someone says Roth or they say individual retirement account, there's a traditional and then there's a Roth. The first one was the traditional. The Roth is the other one. Roth is one where you are actually choosing to pay the taxes upfront and then never again, right? You'd say, well, that's sixes, right? You know, it doesn't matter when you're going to do it. Why not just take the deduction now? Well, you say to yourself, am I going to be in a higher tax bracket now, or am I going to be in a higher tax bracket later? I hope we all say we're going to be in a higher tax bracket later because we're going to all make more money, right? The other thing that you're kind of weighing on which one you would want to do. Oh, and the 6,000 limit, you can only do 6,000 to one or the other, right? You can do a blend, but the total amounts into here is $6,000, right? So one thing you want to take into mind also is, say you don't pay the taxes, you defer your taxes. What if the government changes the ordinary income tax rates, right? We can mostly assume that we're going to have to pay more taxes in the future than we will today. So by doing a Roth, you are betting that taxes are going to be higher in the future, right? So that is why I would typically say use the Roth option if you can. There's some other things that make it a benefit within a Roth, and that is you can actually pull the basis out of a Roth account before you're 59 and a half without paying the tax penalty if you've contributed to it for 5 years in a row, and you can pull the principal for it. So there's a little more flexibility is a good word. Yes. The other piece is that you don't have to take a required minimum distribution from Roth because you've already paid taxes on it. It's more tax efficient for you. It's more tax efficient for your kids. Say you pass away, you have the money. They don't have to take big lump sums and have a higher tax rate, right?
Did you say that the Roth IRAs also are a tax benefit? Like,
yeah, so you pay taxes up front and then they grow tax deferred. And once you pull it out of the account, you'll never have to pay taxes again. So, you know, yeah,
Okay.
so I guess.
Well, just on that, doesn't that make sense? Because it's gonna grow tax-free as well too, because you're pulling out a higher amount than what you put in and you don't owe taxes when you pull it out. So getting that write-off up front is like, I guess, instant gratification.
It's instant, and There's some other ones we'll build into, but it's, if you're having an extremely high income year, it could be more beneficial to take the deduction in this year. But it just, that's really a CPA question of like.
Just go buy a truck.
That's the
Exactly.
of the 1099, yes.
Sorry.
No, it's a great point. So here's kind of some more features to it. So the other ones I'm gonna open up to you guys is a SEP IRA or a simple IRA. Those are kind of the two other ones that realtors use or small business owners use, because you can actually defer a whole lot more money into them, right? So if you go, I'll switch back to these. So you can see your annual deductions here. In a SEP IRA, you can actually contribute 25% of your compensation or $58,000, right? So that's a lot higher amount. For people who want to sizably lower their income rather than just buying trucks, you can put 58,000 of your income into this, right? The simple is a little lower. It is 13,500. But these are all very easy accounts to set up and very easy to fund, right? So these IRAs, the simple and the SEP, are structured the same way as a traditional IRA, right? So you have to hold them until you're 59 and a half.
Everybody's like, it's Dave's here. Time out to say hi to Dave.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Really
Good Dave, this is Nick.
It's good to meet you. Man.
Good to be here. Good, I haven't picked it.
He is leaving.
Yeah. So SEPs and symbols are their traditional IRAs, just like I explained on the first one, except for the contribution limits are much higher. Fairly cost effective to open. You can go to any discount brokerage, if it's E-Trade, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. Most of the time they're $0 to open, and they are free to fund, and most of those places have free trades too. There are some income limits here. You can see that for the Roth here is the income limits on the left, and for the traditional, those are the main ones. The SEPs and the symbols, it doesn't, there isn't a limit to how much income you make, right? But that's definitely something you want to take into, you just want to know. There's a trick that you can do, which is called a backdoor Roth conversion too. So if you do make too much money, you can actually do a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA. So deductible is, you take the tax deduction up front. If you make a non-deductible contribution, you don't get that, but you can make the contribution to your IRA, and then you can convert it to a Roth, and then it becomes Roth money. You've already paid the taxes, and you get the same benefits of a Roth, even if you make too much money. This is also an effective technique for somebody who has a bunch of Roth or a bunch of traditional IRA money or 401k money, and they don't have a good income year. They can pay the taxes on that money in that year rather than having to pay it all at once in the future.
It's a nice little cheat code.
It's a little cheat code.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'll put these slides up in the Facebook group. I know you're not gonna, unless you're taking screenshots, but I'll put the slides in the Facebook group.
All of so what you put into it has to be cash in all four of the accounts. You have to fund it with cash, right? I think from a what's it called? So the next piece is, what do you put into it? People always say, well, my Roth has performed badly, or my traditional IRAs, I hear they don't perform well, right? You can really buy whatever you want in them. You can actually do a self-direct IRA that owns real estate as well. It is very tedious, And a lot of the times it's not worth it. But you can actually own real ownership and property inside of the retirement account as well. So, you know, if you're saying your Roth is performing badly or your traditional IRA is performing badly, you just made bad investments. It's really what it is. So you can own anything, you know, stocks, bonds, money markets, annuities, mutual funds, ETFs, crypto, real estate, crypto. You can buy ETFs that have crypto into them, but direct ownership in crypto, like owning coins, I don't think it's available yet though, because there isn't enough regulation on it. But the new Bitcoin ETF, I believe you can buy that on any IRA because it's just a publicly traded asset, right? So those are kind of the most effective things. 401ks is another one. So 58,000, if you want to defer even more money, you can step up even farther. You can do what's called a solo 401k with profit sharing plan. And you can also get, I think that number you can get to is $60,000. If you want to defer even more, you can do something what's called defined benefit plan. And with a defined benefit plan, you can actually get up to $250,000 that you can deduct from your income. You basically create your own pension plan for yourself, which is pretty cool. So very effective way, you know, I showed at the beginning why you want to defer investments. You make a lot more money over the long run, right? Any questions on that thus far?
Did you say that there was a max you can make?
Yes.
Income wise,
Like after you put in your contribution and 50 years down the line.
Oh, the amount of money in there, no,
Okay.
no. You can have as much money in there as possible. It's the, you know, the only kind of hard part is you only put so much in on a regular basis.
Great.
I guess kind of other pieces. So if you guys did have former employers who gave you retirement benefits, like the 401k,
There's a vesting time.
you can roll that into an IRA and manage it yourself rather than leaving it in the plan that it was, and you won't have to pay taxes on that. There's also a 60, and this is, I guess, a trick for realtors, right? A lot of times they have people will have a lot of money in retirement accounts, but they say, I can't use that money, right? I can't use that money because I don't want to pay taxes on it. They have a 60-day, so if you pull money out, you have 60 days to replace the money, right? So you can actually sell everything in it. You won't pay any tax on it because it's in a retirement account. You have cash, you can buy whatever you want. If you have a good loan officer, you can get a refinance done on it quickly, get that lump sum back into the account and never pay taxes on it as well. So that is a nice little trick. So you have 60 days, right? And that's the same with a 401k. If you are rolling it over, you get to, they basically sell everything in your 401k. They send you a check. You just have to deposit that check within 60 days into a retirement account, or you will pay taxes on all that money. Right?
How expensive is the paperwork and the process for the self-directed part? Do you guys do that at Morgan Stanley?
We don't have that option. I actually, and most of the big, you know, the Schwabs, the E-Trades, those things typically don't do it. They're more smaller, boutique. And we usually advise against it, just because it is a nightmare. There are some accountants who are really good at it. I personally don't know one. Most of the times, people who have done it have had terrible experiences.
I know one that's in jail.
He's a good one. Yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot of work.
There's so many things you can do though. Like say Jason's you're gonna do a flip, right? Instead of doing a seller, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, but instead of doing a seller finance, you do a lease with an option. You have an option to buy that property. You haven't exercised it yet, and it's in the name of your self-directed Roth. Then when you remodel and flip that property, you're selling your option, which your Roth owns, and so all of that profit goes into your Roth.
That's actually a really idea. Yeah.
You couldn't do that on every one because you're doing it for capital, right?
Yeah.
But if you did like every third one or something, and that's a way to pad your Roth.
Can you purchase stock options inside of a Roth?
It's a good idea sometimes.
You can buy options.
Only some.
I know more stuff that I haven't done than
Yep.
what I have actually done.
I think I'm on that section myself.
I mean, that's the thing, like, it is, in the idea of it, it's really good, but when you get to like the finite, bits and pieces of it, it gets overwhelming to buy real estate or, do the leasing agreement like you described.
This is why we haven't done it, because I'm the one
I
that.
can't get past this wall right here.
Smart wall.
So that's all I was gonna talk about from a retirement account. I hope you guys learned something there. I have, said I sent him like 5
Do you have a
different
card?
cards. Yeah, I have a bunch of cards there. I was gonna roll in, I know, liquidity access line of credit.
Yeah.
Here's my card here.
Isn't it what it used to be stock with
Um,
Isn't it what it used to be stock with Morgan Stanley? So like we wanted to do moving along, never did anything like that.
So liquidity access line of credit, we call it LAL. So this is a service we do at Morgan Stanley. So I know buying homes is really hard right now. Most people are cash buyers. And so this is what I did for my home, right? I have a sizable investment portfolio that I've built over the years. And you can lend against those monies or against those investments, right? So it's just a line of credit on your investments, right? So the line of credit is typically 1 to 2 day funding. And the interest is LIBOR plus 1.25, but that is completely negotiable. We have a client with a loan that is under 2% all-in interest rate, right? Yeah. So you can, if somebody doesn't want to sell their investments because they don't want to pay taxes on it, can lend against it, they can purchase it, and they can do a tech refi off of it and get out of that line of credit and actually buy themselves, then put a traditional mortgage on it and then pay off the line of credit. So this is a fast way to pay cash for something. If you have somebody that has assets that they don't want to sell because they don't want to pay taxes, but they need to pay cash for a property, this is a good way.
Is that a revolving line?
Yeah, so it's it's interest only.
Sorry.
Are you paying yourself the interest? So like,
That would
so,
have been good to know 3 months
so
ago.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Is the LIBOR based on the
some
term,
years,
or is it like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months?
So you can term it out, and obviously the farther out the term goes, the higher the interest rate is going to be. But rates, they have been coming up. But we also come out with promotions where you can get a 6-year for 2%. Some, like that was the last one we did. But they're just great. Yeah, you can have it, leave it on the variable rate, the daily variable rate, or you can term it from 1, 3, 5, and 7 year all the way out as long as you want. So I think that's an effective way to buy more real estate. I think another piece of this is
What's the percentage of the total portfolio that you can borrow against?
so it depends on the underlying assets. Some people like in the state have a ton of Wells Fargo stock, or GE is another big one that they have out here, right? On a concentrated stock position, it's only about 60% that you can loan against it. If it's a diversified stock portfolio, you'll traditionally get about 70% release. If it's bonds, corporate bonds, you're going to get about 75%. On municipal bonds, you're going to get about 80 to 85%. On cash, you'll get 95% release. So it just depends on what the underlying assets are, right? Most non-liquid assets aren't. Trace, if you own hedge funds or private equity or venture capital or those types of things. I think another piece to know is that this only works for brokerage accounts, so taxable assets, not in the retirement accounts, kind of like I talked about before. Right?
So our company actually pays us in stock sometimes for things that we do with growth. And also we're able to buy stock at a discount into our company. And so like we have a sizable amount from what we've done the last 3 years. And so if we moved that over from just sitting there where they've provided that to us, but we moved it into an account that you are managing and not just sitting there, then that is actually something that we could borrow against as
You can
well.
borrow against it 100%.
Just, I'm saying this, you guys, because I mean,
That's cool.
you know what we've grown and you all can do the same thing.
Can you borrow against non-vested stock?
No.
Sorry, I was trying to.
Well, I didn't think you were able to do that, because we don't own it.
Yeah, you gotta own it. You gotta own it.
We're about ready to go, so like, we're almost hitting a 3.
Hey, if you don't ask, I've asked some pretty stupid questions and got pretty cool answers.
That's true. No such thing as a
What's the
stupid
Wi-Fi
question.
Wi-Fi?
It's a new start, NUSTART,
Basically just a case study, so.
New start, what's the password?
801.
Hold
Yeah, just a case study on the left, you wanna buy a vacation home, several bidders, harder to get it, you can pay cash with it by lending on your line of credit, and all they do is they wire the money there, it's fairly simple. There's no underwriting, since it's your own monies, there's nothing, it's not hitting your credit or anything like that. Once the line is open, it moves very quickly and doesn't affect your credit either, right? Yeah, and then, you know, you can do a mortgage. We have a mortgage arm as well. Our rates are, we're technically a bank, so we still have to work with, but our rates are competitive. If you are in the jumbo loan size and you have more than $1 million with Morgan Stanley, I have my rate sheet over there, I think. We also do interest onlys too, which is, I might have moved it over here. I just want to make
Maybe
sure
when
we
you
give
put
you
your
guys
cords
exact
in.
numbers.
Oh, yeah, periodically we shove it in the cupboards and then Chase came in through one time and had to throw half of it away.
Start over every year.
Yeah, so on the jumbo size, like a 15-year, we're at 2.6 as of yesterday, and our 30 years are 2.9 as of yesterday. And then our interest onlys are a 5-year arm is 2.45, 7-year arm is 2.45, and a 10-year is 2.6.
This is as of yesterday?
That's yesterday.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that's way off.
What's your jumbo? Did you say that?
Yeah, they have to be jumbo, so they have to be
2.6?
non-conforming. That's for an interest only 10-year,
Okay,
10-year interest only.
wow.
And you have to have $1 million with the firm, so don't just, you know, and on small, we suck when it comes to little, we're very much trying to appease the affluent, if that makes sense, right? Enough about that. 1031 exchange funds. How much time do I have?
You're good.
Cool.
Shows you.
Yeah, I like this stuff. Keep going.
Yeah.
So you guys deal with real estate. I'm sure you guys know 1031 exchange is a great way to defer capital gains, right? Some people get to a point where they are tired of being property managers, but want to continue to defer their capital gains and don't want to manage anymore. Morgan Stanley has 1031 exchange funds, right? So it's just like a traditional 1031 exchange, but rather than going and buying an actual property, you can invest in a REIT, if you will. How it works is you will get 1031 into their highest performing property. You'll sit in it for 2 or 3 years, and then you will be the fund will repurchase that building, and you'll be rolled into their REIT. So, you know, companies like Jones Lang LaSalle, Black Creek, Aries, they all put these out on a regular basis, and you know, it spits out a 5% interest payment with a 2 to 5% appreciation on it, right? Which is fine, high single digits, you're getting an income still, but you're no longer managing a property, and now you have basically diversified. I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar property trusts, and you know, the best thing about it is you don't have to deal with the property anymore. And if you hold it on till the day you pass away, you get the step up in basis. And if your heirs sell it, you won't actually have to pay any taxes on it, right? So it's an effective way, especially for people who are getting older, who are tired of managing big commercial properties or even just their own homes, or say they have a sizable real estate portfolio, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore, right? But they still want the income. They still want the tax benefits of receiving income from real estate. Yeah, it's a really effective way to kind of help your clients, right?
Did you mention what the average type of return is on those REITs?
Yeah, so it all depends. But typically you're looking at high single digits total return. But I mean, we have BREIT is on our platform, Blackstone, which is one of the biggest managers in the world. I think they might be the biggest property owner in the might be pretty up there. But their total return for last year was actually 30%. But last year was also one of the best performing years for real estate. So it depends, but typically you should expect, and that's the hardest thing to say. So we'll make 30% last year. Should I make 30% again? It's like probably not.
Yeah.
But high single digits is what they've done, and still get the dividend, you get the tax benefits of the income from real estate, which is great. Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question about that? So let's say we did have a client and we referred them to you and they did a $2 million deal with you. Are you allowed to pay any kind of a, I don't know, a referral fee to an agent?
If somebody has a Series 7 or a 66 license, so if you were licensed to sell securities, I can pay that person.
Okay.
And it's a 25% profit sharing. And so you would get 25% of everything I make in an all cash payment, because how I get paid is they charge 1%, Morgan Stanley takes 60%, and I get 40%. Your 25% is that full cash payment.
Okay, someone have to have a license to do what you, and how hard is that? Just
It took me a while to get a license, but some people just have them, you know. I mean,
And I bet you could get it.
I'm only asking that question because when we refer someone to a TIC, we can get a full commission off that.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to give them the different options, but the TIC, you can make $30,000 off one deal.
yeah. So
What is
I-
stake? What is stake?
It's tenants in common. So if you have someone who wants to do a 1031 exchange, you can show them.
It's just another way to stay in real estate and get out of management.
So the thing I would say is, I mean, if you guys were doing enough deals, you could probably hire somebody with that securities license and we could set up that agreement and I can pay them and you guys could kind of share it through your office how you do it. That makes
I
sense.
highly doubt it, but.
I could get it.
Yeah.
I've had it before, 63, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, you just need that license and then we can have that agreement. So,
Yeah, I did before, that's cool.
Was that type of the insurance used to be?
negative pieces of this is once you go in, you can't then 1031 out of it, right? Once it's in here unless you sell it. And if you sell it, you pay taxes on it unless the person has passed away, right? This just kind of shows the difference if you're to sell it, pay all the taxes on it. If you're able to and then say, you know, do something else with the money, you sell the property, this is the difference. This is if you were able to 1031 it. It's kind of the same thing from property to property, but this just shows it works the same way from our 1031 exchange fund and you doing it into an actual real property. You pay a whole lot of taxes. So it's a good way to do it. Final piece I wanted to talk about that we can also help with is opportunity zones. This is just, if you have a big capital gains coming and you want to continue to defer your taxes, you can actually, so say you sell a property, you can invest the capital gains into an opportunity zone and you continue to defer those taxes over the next 10 years of that investment, right? And so we have partners on our platform. Bridge is one of our biggest partners. If you guys know Bridge is actually a local company, massive, actually now publicly traded. They IPO'd last year, multi-billion-dollar company who specializes in real estate, and one of their products is opportunity zones. So if somebody was to sell something, they can, like I said, put it in here. Bridge will invest their money in opportunity zone real estates for you. All of the money put in there, any gains you've had on that money, you don't have to pay any taxes on it, which is pretty cool. I think they'll reinstate it because it just lapsed, but of 12/31, there used to be a reduction in capital gains on it, but that no longer is a thing. But you can still say you want to split up capital gains over a couple of years. This is a good way to do that, right? And invest that money to maybe pay for those taxes and something like an opportunity zone, right? So yeah. Lapsed in December 31st, 2021, which is a bummer, but 10 years of deferral is still pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's really all I had. Not too bad, 8 minutes early. Does anyone have any questions? I hope I was able to teach you about retirement plans, teach you guys about other options for getting financing on properties and a quick way to pay cash for things, help clients with taxes. I think is a good one as well. So I know there's a lot of information. A lot of those slides were pretty busy, but I'm happy to share any of these things with you.
How many of you guys have IRAs, retirement accounts?
I have an old one
Yeah.
that like a previous employer has, but I haven't touched it or even
It's
like
still there from last year.
literally.
What's the?
12 years.
Oh, dang, yeah.
Have you even looked at it lately?
Nope. I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Is the maximum
Hopefully the
joint
stock's better.
contribution still $12,000?
12,000.
6 and 6.
And I guess
There's a
I'll
couple of
give you guys another cool trick. So if you guys have kids, you can
Let's talk about kids.
Yeah.
Because I only have like a money market, but there's no like tax, maybe.
there's taxes on money market if it's held in a brokerage account.
It's not in a brokerage account though.
If it's in, yeah.
Is it like it's like in a bank? Is that a brokerage account?
Your money market's
I
gonna
don't
get
know.
you 0.0001 right now.
Yeah, it's like
really
nothing.
bad. What was I gonna say though, is if you're a 1099 employee, if you're a business owner, like you guys are, you can hire your kids. Because they have to have an earned income of $6,000 to make a contribution for them. So you can actually hire them and open IRAs for them, pay them $6,000 that you make them put into their retirement account so they can start saving at an earlier time. Which is an effective way to do it, because the biggest issue with kids is they don't have any income, right? So that is a really, really, especially when it comes to gifting, moving money, if you've already created a sizable wealth and you need to start moving your wealth, because you can only do 15,000 gift a year per parent, right? If you need to start moving that money over, a good way to do that is through hiring them, opening a retirement account, making them put it in there.
How specific do you have to be on like paperwork? You just say it's wages, like you have to like have a job description or something, like they shred paper and sweep the
Dishes.
floor and laundry.
They do my dishes. They're two.
They clock in and clock out.
Yeah.
They could be models on your social media. You
So,
pay for marketing.
Okay, so is there a different account that they could use before they retire? Like the point of like for us is a savings account that's getting, but we want to be able to like use that money for college or a car or things like that. Like what, is it completely different?
So I mean, there's other tax things you can use, shelters. They're not great, but like Roth, you can take the principal out as long as you've been contributing to it for 5 years. So you'll be able to use the principal for it after a certain amount of time.
Okay,
529s are effective ways to do that, but you get a very small deduction. You get like a $200 deduction. A 529 is the Utah one is specifically called the Utah Education Savings Program. It's actually really, really, really good. You can put the gift amount into that. So you can actually put, 15,000 for you, spouse puts 15,000 in, My parents can both put 15,000 into it. My wife's parents can put 15,000 into it. You can also do a 5-year run up. So you can do your full gift for 5 years and never again. So you could actually run it with 30 or 150,000 too, which is kind of cool. But that grows tax deferred, and you don't have to pay taxes on the money you pull out of it if it's for educational purposes. And they've gotten a lot more liberal with what is considered a school. You just need to look on there and see, because not everyone goes traditional college path anymore. So there are some trade schools in there and some beauty schools and things like that. That has also made it pretty cool. That's really.
Can't she also pay her kids as employees up to the, individual income limits where they don't owe taxes anyway and not put it in any vehicle?
Yep.
Just you pay them, that's a write-off for you, but it's not taxable to them. And then you use that to buy their clothes, their daycare,
Okay,
food, they gotta buy their own damn food now.
yeah.
Isn't there a time after the first of the year that you can still open an IRA from the previous year? Do we still have that?
As long as you haven't filed your taxes. So when you file I can make, so say I did make a contribution in 2021.
Yep.
I can make that 2021 contribution, all the way up until the day I filed my taxes. So I could do if that was the situation, I could do 2021 and I could do my 2022 contribution today. As long as I haven't filed my taxes yet.
Could I still open one for my kids then if I wanted to? Or my taxes for 2021? That's pretty great.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to get on that right now.
Yeah.
What are we calling you?
One more question. Hunter or place kicker?
I technically did both. At Utah, I kicked off for 3 years and I punted about 30 times. And then I never won the field goal job.
Pressure.
And then Rutgers, I punted and kicked off full time. And then I went to rookie minicamp with the Patriots, tried out with the Jets, then played for a semi-pro team called the Brooklyn Bolts. So I can kick a ball really far, but where it's going, that's not always.
Nobody understands how hard.
I'm going for distance, not accuracy.
That was always my issue. I'm a head coach.
That's awesome.
I'm a big Utah football fan,
Yeah, me too.
like huge.
Well,
Just go to the Rose Bowl.
I stayed home so my wife could go. I'm technically like a recent Utah fan, and she's from here, and her parents have been season ticket holders since like 1950.
Yeah.
It mattered a lot more to them.
Oh, yeah.
You were.
Any-
2011 team, 2012.
I was on that team and that team. So 2009 I redshirted. Yeah, but most ex-players like hate Utah afterwards.
Right.
Really?
Oh,
You try soccer?
Yeah, so my mom's from England and big Liverpool fan. My
Manchester
dream board
United.
goal. My dream board goal is to go to every World Cup for the rest of my life.
Nice.
So I'm hoping I get a good guitar this year. I think that would be cool.
I got one more question for you too. So kind of practical application, what we run into a lot is, say a buyer that's, purchasing a $600,000 home, 500, kind of that, average range. And maybe they've got 40,000 in a 401k, they're putting down some money, maybe they're putting 10% down, but they want to put 20% down to have to get the better loan and avoid the mortgage insurance. If they have like a modest IRA or is there any options like with investments to borrow against or pull out, or is that just if you have $1 million in an account?
So retirement accounts you can't lend against.
Okay.
In 401k, so if there is an employer, 401k has an employer, there is an option where they can set up where you can lend against it. It's the same thing, like you said, where you're borrowing basically on yourself, you're paying yourself interest. So 401ks can, if you have a 401k and you have an option to lend against it, it depends on who the employer is, but sometimes if they have a 401k, ask them.
Okay.
And say, do you know if you have the ability to loan against it? I'm pretty sure that interest is also deductible, so there's some tax benefits to it as well. But yeah, if it's in a retirement account, you can't do the liquidity access line.
That's what I was kind of going, and what kind of options there were.
It's just a brokerage account, and I mean, there's like levels. So you can, if you have like 10 million at the firm and you're just stupid rich, they'll just give you money too. That's called what is it called?
Just keep it.
Tailored lending. It's like if you're so rich you don't need the money,
Then you can get it.
then you can get it.
That's the way it
And you can, yeah, they just look at your balance sheet and they're like,
Oh, yeah, you're good.
So like
There's no
there,
need more.
it kind of depends on the situation where that maybe could come into an effect at one point, where in that tailored lending specific situation, you could do it, but it's typically, most people, they won't give you money for your account.
Yeah, it's just, we're always asking, you know, it's like when someone is up against the down payment percentage issue, it's like,
Right.
you know, let's talk about your family that can contribute, or a 401k can, you know, pull from. So I just, it's always nice to have other options when you need some extra funds for down.
Yeah. Just gotta be creative.
Today is zero down programs.
And there's,
Zero down.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I believe, retirement accounts, individual retirement accounts, there are some exceptions too. So like first time home buyers, you can pull, I want to say 25,000 out of an IRA without paying the tax penalty on it.
For a primary residence.
Primary residence.
Yeah.
And then school is another one, and then medical issues. I think you can also do that same one. I think there's a couple more. I haven't had to read about them for 7.5 years, but I remember that was a thing and could still very likely be a thing too. So
25K for medical issues.
yeah, medical issues as well as one where you can take 25,000 out.
I can imagine it's the stuff they're gonna ask you, okay, where you sick of, what days, what,
You know, the proof.
I have right now my
Copy of the bill.
Yeah.
It's probably all I need, right?
I mean, I've never had to file one. I don't know, and that would be an accountant thing too.
So-
to
Are these
prove that
someone's-
you-
No, they're customers. So let's say like Sam's out there bragging, I hired my kids and I let off all this money and stuff like, and then somebody wants to know more about that. How do we set up like a consultation or say, I only know what I know enough to be excited about this, but I don't know enough. So how do they set up that with you?
Yeah, I brought a bunch of cards. My info was at the beginning. I can send out an email. I can send my information to you. If you wanted to share that, you can also find us if you just Google the Nicholas Group. That is the name of our team. My name is Nick Marsh. If you Google Nick Marsh Morgan Stanley, you'll come to our page as well.
I'll put his slides in the Facebook group, like I said earlier too, so his contact information was on the first slide.
Yeah, on the first slide.
Right, and then you guys that are here.
So do you do like consultations where we can come and say like, this is all of our assets? Tell me what to do with their money?
Yeah, everything is free until we do something with your transfers. So if we start managing your money, and it depends on how you're investing and what you're doing, but typically it's assets under management, and we charge a fee for assets under management. So say you had, you know, $100, we charge 1%. We will get, we'll make $1 every year on that. And if it goes up in value, we'll make more. If it goes down in value, we'll make less.
1% of the portfolio is pretty common.
Yes, ours ranges from bonds, we charge 0.8, equities, we charge 1.1. We run a tactical strategy. It's a critical strategy, but we're basically the portfolio managers, and that one's 1.48. It just kind of depends on what we're doing, but
Is there extra fees for like moving your investments or is that what the 1% covers is?
yeah, so there's no, if you're in that managed account program, you don't actually pay any fees for trades or anything like that. If you have more than $1 million, then there's no account fees. Under $1 million, then it's typically $75 for an IRA or $175 for what's called a AAA. We own E-Trade, which is a self-direct. So if you come to me and I say, it's probably not the best time for you to work with me because it's not cost effective, then I would basically just tell you what to do on E-Trade. Because those are all free to open, free to trade, free to everything. It's just I wouldn't be staring at it.
So Morgan's or E-Trade?
Yeah, Morgan Stanley bought E-Trade maybe a year and a half now.
What was the purchase price on that?
A lot of money.
You know the millions?
It was billions.
Billions.
I want to say it was like 9 billion. We also bought
9 billion?
We also bought Eaton Vance.
$1 billion.
Morgan Stanley's taken over the world. They're really, I mean, I worked at Merrill Lynch before, so I've seen kind of two different worlds.
Morgan's this guy.
It's Yeah, they're 9 day.
by a long shot.
Yeah. The only thing, so Merrill Lynch is owned by Bank of America, which if anybody's ever done a loan with Bank of America, it's a nightmare. But their HELOC products are really nice. So if you need a HELOC, Bank of America is pretty good at it. That was like the only membership that we did.
So on a conservative portfolio, let's say someone had $100,000 that they wanted to use you to help them, invest, like what would that cost them? The 1% is what you're saying?
Yeah, so it depends on what they want to do.
I think the question was about what is it averaging, what are you seeing on returns, like if someone did that on conservative portfolio?
Oh, yeah, on a conservative portfolio, so it's difficult, like what a conservative portfolio means these days is completely different, like than what it used to be. Basically owning a bond now, you're just paying to lose a little bit of money on a regular basis. And so there'll be a time when a bond will pay a reasonable rate of return again, right, with rates going up, so that might come back into it. But now, like if someone just had $100,000, it'd kind of be equities only, right, so stocks only. And I would probably have them do our tactical strategy, which I described. And I mean, that has, over the last, they've back tested it for 100 years, but it's annualized about 10% with half the volatility of the S&P 500. It's been great, especially because it kind of takes the timing of the market out of it because it does that for you. That's a whole presentation on its own, but
You probably sent me a PDF on it,
I did not send you a PDF.
Oh.
I was not going to pitch you on our cool stock strategy.
Cool.
So I mean, it's 5 to 10% is what you would want. It was what you would expect from us. If
And so
we're-
if you want to pull from that, let's say she wanted $20,000, what's it cost you to pull the money out of it?
in that managed, there's just a wrap fee on it. There's no cost. We sell the funds and we wire to. It takes T+2. So if it's before 2 o'clock, you'll have your money in 2
So
days.
it's just the management fee, but not to put money in or take money out.
No, the only fees you'll see is an account fee if you have under $1 million for the 75 or $75 or 175, somewhere in that range, depending on the account. And then the actual managed account fees, which is the 0.8 to 1.48% a year, whichever strategy you're using.
When I was about your age, I just took a certain dollar amount and always put it in something like that, and it
Yeah.
grows so fast. You don't even realize you have it in there.
Yeah, I need to start something like that, because like Mountain America has like these little accounts that you can start. But I know that they're not making anything, like the money market or whatever.
Mhm.
Like I'm seeing the
They're
monthly,
losing,
what
yeah.
I'm making, I'm like, cool, thanks for the 3 cents,
Right.
Yeah.
or whatever was made or whatever, so. It's mostly, I just want like an account for my kids too. It's like a big thing.
Right.
That they can pull out, or that I can pull
Let's at
out
least stay
with
even.
college and
Yeah.
money or cars and, yeah.
I don't know if you know what inflation is, but
7%.
Hey, Kim or Nate, do either of you have any questions? I can just shut off Zoom. We're wrapping up here. I think we're gonna have a sandwich.
No questions. Thank you. It was great information.
Awesome. We'll make
Nope.
sure you get his contact info.
Sorry.
No questions.
I thought I was going back.
No questions, but if you want to send a sandwich my way,
Yes, I wish I could. I'll save one.
it'd be stale.
Have
Have a good day, guys.
Thanks, Nate. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Are you busy? Do you have like